What's your plan? So I know how to
Well,
jam with you.
The plan is simple, and the plan is we're talking about: is it over with comics? Is it so over, or are we back?
Okay.
That's the thing, because we've
boy.
talked about branching into novels. We've talked about that,
Yeah.
but I mean, the golden age of comics emerged because Americans don't read novels. Americans
Yeah.
don't read fiction that much.
I know.
Albeit
Who are we
kids do.
kidding?
Right. But
Okay.
is the problem that we are continuing to focus on platforms and not on market, not on selling products, and not on developing, a pipeline to the customer? Because realistically, is the YouTube grift the best way to sell anything?
Okay, this is already good. This is already too good. I don't want you to have to repeat yourself.
Well, I mean, that's why I pressed the live button, because I knew I was.
Oh, good.
Oh,
hey, we're live. Howdy.
We're live.
Good. Oh, that's hilarious.
So, what do you think about now that I have framed the discussion for you? Just how over is it, or just how back are we?
I think crowdfunding is in a dark place. It's sort of kind of over. There's just too many people. There's just a steady progression of people. Yeah. What do you think?
I see crowdfunds on my Facebook feed that get more money than most crowdfunds I see on Twitter and YouTube. They get more money than all but like the top 5%ers, the people in the 7-figure club, and they get that money consistently.
And they're in comics or novels?
They're in comics.
Oh my goodness! What are we doing?
But you see, those
we're
people,
back, but we didn't know that.
you see, those people are going. Those people are going onto Facebook. They're paying for advertising.
See, it's the first time, folks in the chat may not know this, but the first time you and I, Larry, actually spoke was in the back room chatting with Tyler of Draw and Talk fame. This was like, I don't know, this could have been 2020 or something.
Something like that.
And he said he had a job at the time doing Facebook ads for a living, and he didn't seem to have success personally. But that was before him making Booby Comics, which is like his sole income now, I guess, and he has figured it out. But he didn't figure it out then. Yeah. So maybe it's possible.
I see role-playing games that again get crowdfunded onto my Facebook feed, doing multiple hundred thousands of dollars and doing it consistently. One I got recently is the official Cowboy Bebop role-playing game, which did like 7 figures, but I mean, it's an officially licensed one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's officially licensed. It's got the anime production company was one of the people in it. And, again, that was always good to do huge numbers. So really, it's over because we have the wrong platform. We have the wrong pipeline. We have the wrong sales.
I think you might be right. I think you might be what? Like, so we got to go back to go forward. We got to go back to Facebook.
Well, yes, but also more importantly, we need to, if we want comics to be the product, we need to make comics the product, and we need to treat comics like the product, like it's a business, as opposed to the business being, I'm a YouTube personality, and your way to engage with my being a YouTube personality is to buy this comic book.
Isn't that interesting? So is the age? So let me steel man the age that is setting, the age that you and I watched intermittently from a distance, sometimes a little more up close, that we thought was interesting because it was the age of authenticity. It was the age of, I want to buy something because I care about the creator. I feel that they've got something. They've got some gumption, some chutzpah.
Mhm.
They've
Mhm.
got an outsider perspective. I don't know what it is. They're transgressive. Who knows what? But
Mhm.
I like
Mhm.
them, and then I'm going to buy their product. You're telling me we're moving forward into this age that sounds a lot like before the age of authenticity in the 2000s, where we were just buying things because it looked cool.
No, I'm telling you something much worse. I'm telling you it was never authentic. To
Yeah. Okay.
look at the recent controversy with Yellow Flash's book, there are more people out there online that care about John Dillard than ever bought the Buckler.
Seems that
And they
way.
care
Yeah.
about John Dillard because he's an authentic, real person. But what are they
Yeah.
doing? They're buying based off the personality. They want to participate with Yellow Flash in a active way versus the passive way of I just really agree with your perspectives that are basically, and there's no offense because I mean I do it here. You're recycling clickbait and everybody's talking about clickbait. It's the morning drive radio bit that
Hmm.
everybody does. So it's a common format. Everybody does it in by having the shirt, having the koozie, having the stuffed animal. It gives the audience a chance to be an active participant in the thing without actually, saying, "Yeah, but is it gonna be any good?" And
Hmm.
we're at the age where the people who could just steamroller because they have an audience that's just going to want to participate, they're going to drown out a lot of other voices unless you do what our friend over at Drawn Talk did. And you know, what if I draw manga involving hot girls that's very exploitative, and I'm saying exploitative in a good way, not in a pejorative way, very exploitative of things that are currently in the pop cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think the ultimate problem for independent comics is a lot of people in independent comics are not treating it as a business. They're wanting to be YouTubers, they're wanting to be influencers, they're wanting to be celebrities. Nobody wants to be, well, I'm not going to say nobody. Like you got Doug Ernst with Soul Finder and Tim Lim with his cute girl and cute animal comics. They're running a business. I've heard rumors about, oh, well, they got like secret back end money and this, that, and the other thing. To me, it looks like they're running a business, and I believe Doug when he's being above board about it. So they're being successful because they're running a business. Eric July, at least for right now, seems like he's running a business, although it seems very grimy and exploitative. And this is the use of exploitation in the bad way.
That's fascinating. If I could, not, I like where you're going. I like the
Mhm.
steam coming out of your train as you run down that track, and I don't want to
Mhm.
derail it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I haven't gotten a strong impression that Doug Ernst has as much of a business sense as Tim and Eric, or sorry, not Tim and Eric, Tim and Mark. I think they have a very strong business sense. As
You know
does
what? They need to make a comic. Tim and Mark, awesome comic, great job.
would buy 100%, would back day one. Given Mark's writing interests of name dropping pop culture references,
Mhm.
I'm surprised he
Mhm.
hasn't done that already. But
Mm.
but anyway, yeah, okay. So there's bad authenticity and good authenticity, I guess,
Well,
is
no.
kind of what you're
I
getting
think
at.
I
That's
think
no.
we've been going after authenticity since the '60s, and there was a movie with Christian Slater where he played a kid running a pirate radio station. I forgot what it's called, but he had a line in there where he said, "We've taken all of our themes, we've turned them into theme parks." We don't know what
Wow.
authenticity is, and when we encounter it in the wild so rarely, things just go, dare I say, viral. People simulate virality, but when it happens for real, it's for real.
Okay. Okay. And do I have it right that someone like Eric July is viral in a sense, in a
Uh,
genuine
he
sense?
is he is synthetic authenticity,
Yeah.
and by
Okay.
that I mean
That's
he
fair.
has the right opinions and the right perspectives that make him extremely marketable. And he also has connections to the right-wing alt media sphere, which gives him the ability to push his message forward to the kind of people who want to give somebody $1 million, 2 million at a pop for a while.
Yeah.
But the ride's
Yeah.
going to be over. And I've mentioned this before in comics-related shows and streams and things. There's a pro wrestling term called hot-shotting. So, you
Mm.
get Abdullah the Butcher in town. He stabs the guy in the head with a fork, and people start showing up. They're like, "Oh, what the heck's going to happen next?" And eventually, people go, "Well, I've seen everything now. I don't need to come back." And then there is a decline. All of this stuff with YouTube drama, playing the YouTube grifter angle to promote your stuff, that's hot-shotting. And when you see a decline in someone like Ethan Van Sciver's turnout or John Malin's turnout or their ability to turn people out for others, that's because they've been hotshotted and people are like I don't think so. It's built apathy in the audience.
So what you're saying, like, not to make it too simplistic and put a white hat and a black hat on people, but Eric July has had some declines in sales. That could have other factors, but you're saying the folks that have, unlike Eric July, who have kind of led with more being the edgy boys of YouTube, have hotshotted, and if they've had decreased sales, and that does seem demonstrable, that would be a result of that sort of pumping the gas a little bit too much with short term interest. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And if you really want to have a good perspective on that, something that is within your cultural frame of reference and the cultural frame of reference for most people, the Monday Night Wars were national scale hot-shotting. Once the Monday Night Wars ended, wrestling dropped off for a while. Only when the PG era started were they able to start to build it back up, but it's never quite caught on to the same level. Because, again, we've already seen it all. So why do we come back?
Yeah. Okay. And meanwhile, so that's interesting because tying it into what you said earlier about what has been selling very well, like tabletop role playing stuff and just tabletop
Stuff
games
that's
in general,
advertised and treated like a business is selling well.
and not to put too fine a point on it, but I think media where you get to tell your own story and you can take it out of the box the next night and then tell a different story and then take it out again and you're telling a different story again. Every time you hang out with your friends, you're having a new experience of it. Comic only gets read once, usually, and it has the same story every time you read it.
Which is why
generally.
the price point has to go down. If
Yeah.
you're going to do this sort of thing, you have to have the price point go down.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have the coffee table art house Van Desnay level quality comic book. And you pop that out, and then somebody says, "Oh, wait, this comic book is kind of like this other one I have on my shelf. I should get it." But that it would be moving away from what I think there's a market for an American comic book styled thing. And Rags, and to a lesser extent, John Del Rose, they have a model to do that, to produce that consistently.
Is Rag still around? I love Brad Ball. I haven't seen him around in a while. Maybe he has to be blocked. Maybe that's why I haven't seen him in a while. But
or
is he
maybe
still making stuff?
or maybe like Twitter's pushed him
Could be
down.
the algorithm.
No, could be the algorithm.
Yeah.
But the model of you can get enough people on Patreon to produce a monthly comic book level of art. In fact, John Buscema just said, you know what? I'm going to do a X-Men fan comic on my website, and I'm going to post it.
Hmm.
So you could
Cool.
on Patreon or Subscribestar or something else, if you're in the catbird seat with artistic things, you could do that, and you just have to set your price point and say, hey, listen, here's how many people I need to make this happen. Whereas let's
I
go
like
back
it.
to the proposition of let's go in and make novels, right? Let's say we slap together a novel, right? And it's going to be like 99 cents a download because you download it, and, with like a $5.95 print to, print on demand option.
Hmm.
How many of those do you have to get to make that novel worth your while? Now, I know from John and from David Stewart, how you do it is you just start pumping them out, and eventually Amazon does all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
But then you're playing the game, you're playing the algorithm. You're not making a product in a way that's necessarily sustainable or actually authentically connects to people.
Yeah, that's challenging. There was a boom similar to crowdfunding comics in a way. My understanding from BVS is that there was a boom. That money is not so easily grabbable now.
No,
Uh,
it's not. And also, then you could also further get into the whole thing. Well, I'm going to write a novel that's going to be good enough that I'm going to get a comic book off of it and make a comic book like a crowdfunding add-on.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if that works, but again, we shouldn't be
It
thinking
could.
that way. You should be thinking about we're going to make a comic book business, and to do that, we're going to
Yes.
do advertisements and things. But I think more to your point, because of the toxic ecosystem, unless you have the money to run ads for your crowdfunding on things like, Facebook or areas where the whole toxic social media effect of Twitter and YouTube are not so pronounced in comics, you're
Yeah, it never
probably not
really
gonna get it
popped
done.
off over there. Mm-hmm.
And they have other weird things on Facebook for comics, like, the whole comic collector auction culture where you're going to watch an auction. To me, that's the weirdest stuff in the world. And then people are going,
Yeah.
wow, you got such a good book. That's such good quality. I mean, look at the raised lettering in the nice eggshell finish.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to me, I don't get that.
Herringbone. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a little.
And I want to circle back, though, to again, if the audience out there, I know not that many people are listening on Twitter or YouTube, and there will be some more who'll watch it later, but
Yeah. Replay game.
replay gang. But here's the real hard, fast truth. If you want better comic book products, you need to, if you care about someone like John Dillard, you need to buy John Dillard's book. If you care about good quality stuff and you see a guy out there like going, this guy looks like he has something, and you got the money, you need to do it. And we need to get the price point down. I mean, everybody should be able to sell something in the $5 price range for a 48. Everybody should do that. And quite frankly, you should shoot for like no more than 8 with shipping.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our the Wild Tales comic we worked on is at 7. It's always been 7 or 7.5, I guess. 15 for 2. But yeah, it should go cheaper than that. Yeah, it's been brought up before. This is the American comic scene, like it or not, and because we did have some folks like Doug Ernst and like Doug TenNapel and like Tim and Mark, who have done hardcover or done kind of graphic novel type like above and beyond local comic shop expectations for their products, and that's been how they've justified the price point. And that went away. That went away years ago.
Yep.
And for better or for worse. and now we are at the point where people they didn't change their tastes. They said, no, we actually are here because we were American comics fans, and American comics are floppies typically, maybe put together in a trade, but certainly not hardbound. And if you're gonna say, like, I'm here for art and story, but not necessarily for physical quality, then $35 plus $10 shipping is gonna be that's a slow
That's a
motion
huge
train wreck.
Yeah.
You know,
And also, Peter Simeti has a printing service for newsprint comics, and all these
That's
people
right.
out there aren't using it.
Yeah. What do you think's with that? That's actually kind of, do people not want to admit to themselves what American comics are?
I think the issue is the people in the scene don't want to collaborate to lift everybody up. And Peter, has that business model where, you put the stuff together, you send it to him, he prints it on newsprint because he has extra, print capacity. And, the more people who do that, that means he can lower everybody's price point. But we're just not, doing things that are smart to grow the hobby and grow the scene. And, there's a lot of things in the scene that are authentic, and I just look at them and going, well, that's nice, but I don't really get it. I don't really get why people are, super duper going for that. And that's the other thing. Nobody's, with all the energy behind the alt-right / neo-reactionary / etc., under the broad umbrella of Comicsgate adjacent, Comicsgate proximate people out there, nobody's really making their own Superman. No one's really making their own Spider-Man. No one's making their own, Justice League. Closest thing to someone making their own X-Men or Avengers is Graveyard Shift, which sold a bunch of comics, then petered out, and the Jawbreakers, which still does well. Almost like it's something that the market wants and that the independent comic scene isn't feeding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to, I think, I don't see a lot of people pointing this out, but I think it's hard to be reactionary on YouTube and be transformative inside the pages of the comic. I think it's almost like it makes smart business sense to just stay on brand and be reactionary in your comic as well.
But I mean, the comics aren't even reactionary. They're just sort of like, they're art films. Everybody's got their own little art film in a sort of genre of a comic. Nobody's saying, like, every big comic book company has a guy who flies, who's a paragon hero, who's good. Everybody's got a wisecracking street level guy, but he's got a heart of gold. Nobody is making these timeless, iconic types of characters. I mean, Cyberfrog has like a little asterisk because it was an indie comic character that became a niche comic character, because that's what I would call everything in this indie scene we're a part of. But, and then he has an idea like Rainbow Brute, like going, this is kind of fun and interesting. But at this point, he's, puttering around with other stuff so long as like going, I'm not interested in it because there's no actual energy to be really transgressive and saying, okay, you know what, you're going to take all our stuff, we're going to take all your stuff, we're going to flip it, we're going to make it guy stuff, and we're going to make it cool and awesome and better. You could have sold the hell out of that idea.
Don't you think, like, this isn't really my market when I describe it this way, but I think the people who have sold the best are the people that subconsciously, like, it's clear to the market audience that their books are an extension of them in some sense. Like, really, the best stuff that Cyberfrog 1 and 2 has done is really the stuff that just kind of patterns Ethan's life like kind of transparently.
Oh yeah,
Where,
100%.
and
What
Eric July
Cyberfrog
is transparently doing
what
that.
Cyberfrog is with a woman who has a kid.
Yeah,
Huh, that's so weird. And
yeah,
it's
that he
and
gets to
it's
adopt in, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's cute, and and it's like, can I live out in the Pine Barrens, and with this world that I don't recognize anymore? Can I make a little community? Uh, you know, uh, can I make a little community for my own that will help me take care of my family?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
or
mhm.
do I have to get out there and continue to fight to so that they have a future? It's like that's the best stuff. And Eric July is doing the same thing. And I think people intuited that.
I mean,
No.
I I I I I've read both items, so I press X to doubt on that. I mean,
Okay. You don't think that was
it,
the attempt, at least, of like, the independent, the libertarian, like owns his own land,
well,
you know.
you don't really get to experience that. It's like a lot of modern movies and films
Hmm.
where they say things in the text that should be said in subtext, and then
Oh.
they don't say things that need to be said in the text. They just want you to take that as subtext. It's like, nah, dog,
Hmm.
that ain't gonna be it. That ain't gonna be it at all. I think Isom
Hmm.
is maybe an Eric July power fantasy, like having your own
Yeah.
compound with your boys, and then going
Yeah.
in and smacking like the street level hoodlum who's become like a nightclub owner,
Hmm.
and hooking up with a crazy foreign looking lady who's a demon hunter, and beating
Hmm.
the forces of hell back. I mean, I think that's there, but like, there's nothing you can really relate to that's relatable about Eric July the person, because I
Hmm.
think Eric July is just a guy who's really good at marketing. He's got a
Yeah.
niche, and he knows if he cranks this project out, he could, I don't know, get Chuck Dixon to do all the hard work of making Alpha Core. And I
Yeah.
don't know, he could pick up these two, like, what were the people who did Yair? Weren't they like some horror writers or something?
Oh, Geiger.
No, Yaira. The
Oh, Yaira. Yeah,
thing,
I don't even know
Yaira.
about Yaira. What's
Yeah,
going on with
like
that?
they were like, that was the blonde chick who was in the first Isom book.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
was the only
I hear
thing
that's
I'm
going to do well.
interested in. I mean, it's going to do well because it's all very marketable, but
Yeah.
I think it's not going to do as well as it would have because, thanks to Dick Masterson, a lot of the bloom is off the rose of Eric, and how Eric
Hmm.
uses techniques very similar to a Japanese manga company of exploiting like small artists in overseas, and then having like
Yeah.
a artist with a name and cachet, like sort of like compositing all the work of foreign artists and getting all the credit and most of the money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not a good
Yeah.
way to
The
do
3D
business.
asset thing too is a
Yeah,
manga thing. Yeah.
and that 3D asset thing was done through a Brazilian-based company, and it's not good. It's not a good look at all. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. I don't feel the same level of authenticity that I feel for Ethan in Cyberfrog. And
Yeah.
conversely, as gross as the raping the skull thing was for John Malin, I feel his authentic anger at Gail Simone in that, really tasteless bit in the comic book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I at least feel, yeah, no, I feel that's something where John Malin is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to see. So, okay. So Eric July, he's had an arc with Isom 1 and 2, but um, even if his even if it looks like there's early signs that his shooting star is falling, and personally,
he's
he's
got the
already
infrastructure up
managed to
now.
expand
He's
that.
he's he's leveraging the infrastructure. And
Yeah, and
after an
there
ISIM
might be a future
3,
there that might hit the sort of aspirational, transformative American comics, superhero comics that you're describing. I think,
yep,
right? That
yep,
really is a business.
right. But the problem is the product's not really good. And I know there are lots of people who love Chuck Dixon's work. I don't I don't care for it.
Oh, mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever read. I mean, I'm just not. I haven't been in the mainstream, so
Yeah.
I've never read it.
Also, there's I forgot there's Goodying that's coming out. It's ANCAP Reed Richards.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
ANCAP Reed Richards. All right.
Yep. A science adventure hero who works for people, sells them like insurance packages.
Oh, you're not. It's not. You're not selling me.
I
That's
mean,
not your job to sell me
no,
on
it's not my
that.
job.
But
That's my job. I saw it as a in-universe advertisement in ISM 2, and I thought, that's kind of neat. Just one moment.
yeah, that's interesting, guys. By the way, hey, how you doing? Ahoy, Rune Knight. See if you said if you got a slot for my pain in the butt, I'll come goob with y'all. I'll make sure Larry sees that. Yeah, it's interesting landscape. Like Larry, we've been talking for years now, and I think it's if we're back, we're
Pardon
just
me.
not back in the way people foresaw, which is often how these things go. Hey, how are you doing?
Give me a second.
Larry?
Give me a second.
Mhm.
I had some household nonsense I had to attend to. So give me a
Of
second here.
course.
Since Rune wanted to slip in.
Oh, great. Rune, sounds like you've got the link.
Yep, I sent the link over.
Yeah, it's an
Give him a
interesting
minute.
era. It's yeah.
And a Rune Knight has entered the stream.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I just got off of work, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna bring my pain in the butt over here, bother you guys,
Yeah,
because
please.
I do have an interesting addition, something you guys haven't brought up, but it might be worth discussion on this subject. Because I'm not gonna defame anyone. I'm not gonna jump in the pit. I want to be very
Mhm.
neutral on the subjects of what's going on right now, because we're gonna be talking with John Dillard in a couple of days, and I want to
Oh, nice.
come in neutral. I want to learn what's going on from a first person source without a bias, you know?
Yeah, that's great.
But
Yeah.
I have a basic thesis I think might be interesting for you guys. You got Eric, you got Ethan, you got a bunch of people who are in the indie sphere. Some of them really enthusiastic, but I want to posit that the guys who have been very successful, if they are not driven, self-motivated people, kind of like John, um, do share one interesting trait. I'm not sure they like comics. They know they can make money at it, but I don't know if they're actually in comics for comics. And what I mean by that is as
Mm.
Larry says, Eric is obviously a very good marketeer, and we got to respect that. You can't, credit where credit's due. Game recognized game. The man can sell you something, right? But then, like,
Yeah.
look at Rick Piper and Canadian Shield. Rick Piper would be doing this anyway in a notebook if he didn't have the chance to get crowdfunded, because he clearly loves the art form and loves comics as an idea. I, as a consumer, independent from doing comics, I absolutely become like 15 again and get a giant smile on my face if I put on 90s Spider-Man cartoons. Right? I just don't know if many indie comics people are actually like, I don't care how the comic gets made, I don't care what comics get made, but I would make comics even if it wasn't profitable. You know, if it was attainable in a more
Mm.
easily attained format.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about someone like you, Rune Knight, and God bless you, and all the people like you, because you'll do it without crowdfunding, which is cool.
I mean, I wish I don't have that kind of talent, but yes, I do sit at my desk sometimes and just scribble scripts that will never see the light of day, and then I dream.
Rune. Rune, you are cranking out some role playing game book stuff though. Yeah,
Oh, neat.
you're starting on another path.
I mean, your mouth to God's ear. Here's the thing. I see them as all related. Games, comics, and heavy metal music have always been closely
Nice.
connected from the same kind of pseudo outsider peer group, right? So it's like, no. If I succeed at some game books, maybe I'll parlay that into getting some opportunities to get some comic books made, possibly using the same artists, you know. But
it's challenging because there's people like you, and there were more of them. But how do you? And I'd venture to say that there are a lot of people like you that I really feel like have spoken up and found their voice and found their platforms in the last 5 years or so. But it's like how to bridge your passion that cannot be shaken by market forces. You will not be daunted. You will not stray from your vision for comics, even if nobody wants what you're excited about. How do we bridge that into something that can be a business that can actually pay for itself? Not that that's the only, the one and only standard for success, but it would be nice that more people wouldn't have to go into debt to achieve their dream, I guess, is the only reason why I ask. How can we bridge Larry's vision with Rune's?
If only we were all as talented as the Narwhal was for his art style and his art aesthetic.
The thing is, I was at work today. It sounds funny to say. I'm at work and I'm goofing up. No, I was at work, and during a break, I happened across a video. Hopefully, Matt will come back. From this guy called the Literature Devil. I've seen his stuff before, though I've not dug into it. And he was talking about Superman, and he started with a quote from Kill Bill, in which Bill, the bad guy, posits that
Superman wrong.
Yeah, he gets Superman wrong because he says Superman is how Clark Kent is how Superman sees people, right? And then does a deep dive on how comic tastes change and how today we wouldn't make a Superman because people don't see raw idealism as an idea, and then tries to posit that this is a change from the original Superman that is a new reinterpretation, and on and on and on. And the thing is that I am not a Superman fan. Full statement. I've said it before. I was like, I don't care for Superman. But no, I require, as a consumer, my Superman to be the good guy. When somebody says, what if we do an edgy Superman? I'm like, we did that once. It was fun. Stop it. Please stop it now. Because I don't mind if Superman is a good guy. Right? I'll make fun of it, but I also love it. Right? There has to be a baseline good to contrast all of your variations on good up to and including bad guy.
Yeah, it helps your anti-hero be a more authentic version of himself if there's a crusader Boy Scout.
Right. And what I get about with my this argument I'm making, where it's like, people really gotta love comics if you're gonna make comics, hopefully, right? Is that if you looked at me and you said, okay, Joe, we're gonna fund you, we're gonna let you make a book, but you have to make the book we want, and we want the indie comic Superman, right? And it's gotta be heartwarming and good and golly gee willikers. Yes, I would complain about it. I would absolutely bitch and complain, but I'd also do it, and I'd know how to do it because I love books and I love the ideas of comics. And if you tell me make a Superman, make a classic Superman the way Superman ought to be, Oh, well, of course I'll do it. I'll do it in a hot minute. Job's a job.
Mm-hmm.
Going off of what you were saying, Matt, it seems to me like some of the people in comics are like, well, if I made a Superman, it'd be an ANCAP Superman or a My Pet Politics Superman, but that's okay because it's not their pet politics Superman. And the problem is that I don't think that's good for the industry.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
That's powerful.
What Larry was saying, Jawbreakers is working because Jawbreakers is filling a niche that the industry wants, and we've all heard it. We want non-political, but it's not even non-political. It's we want neutral presentations. We don't want to be preached at in our escapist fiction, which means you could have ANCAP Superman and you could have fucking super capitalist Superman. We'll take either one, but don't preach at us about it. Superman should still be Superman, please.
Well, I mean, if you go back to excuse me, we go back to Milestone Comics, you had a black Republican Superman with a teen pregnant sidekick.
Okay.
That was Icon and Rocket.
Yeah.
Well, I think also by extension, as we talk about this, we're also talking about we'd like the free market to be free, which is perhaps idealistic and stupid, but the thing is that if you have classic Superman, and you have radical Superman, and you have evil Superman, and you have black Superman with baby mama, and 4 out of those 5 fail just because they don't sell. That's the market has spoken. Don't try to Miles Morales this and force me to accept the Superman I don't want. But the thing is that it's not a corpo thing, even though I am the first guy to go, I'm kind of anti-corpo. You know, because if there was an indie Superman that was a Miles Morales Superman, I wouldn't want it either. I don't play favorites. Indie is not sacred just because it's indie.
But you're actually a good person to circle back to the original starting thesis.
Yeah.
Would you crowdfund a novel?
I mean, I would have to know something of the author. Hopefully they had printed something, and a writing sample would help. And it better be damn good.
Would you go to see somebody who does the normal comic book snake oil sales thing that we do in crowdfunding on YouTube and Twitter, who's doing that for a novel? Would you buy the novel after that presentation?
Here's the thing, it really depends on the sale, because if we use Eric July as our guideline for just a moment, because again, marketeer, when we were in the build-up to ISOM, I might have, right? But as we got closer to ISOM's release, and as I listened to what Eric said longer, I wanted less of it. And then when I actually read it, I was like, eh. And then he started getting into the
products.
E-drama.
You don't like hearing about the products? How good he is at the products?
I mean, if he was as good as he says he was. But see, the thing is that then, and this is where I'm coming from, you turn around, you look at Peter Simeti. Peter Simeti's like, we do books. We make comics. And when you ask Peter, well, what books do you do? He'll tell you about what books are coming up. He'll advertise the books he's got. But then he doesn't actually tell you, and you have to get this book, or this is the book for real comic fans. He lets the book stand on its own, because what he's selling you is the quality, the standards of his press. He understands that the book must live or die as a book. His publisher must live or die by the quality of the books that they publish.
And the thing about Peter's comic book press is at his price point, you can take a risk on anything. And that's another aspect of the price point we discussed, that you can't take a risk on a $35 book. And quite honestly, you can't really take a risk on an $8 book. But if there was a way to sustainably sell people $2.99 plus shipping books, you would take a lot more risk in crowdfunding books.
Well, I'm gonna butter him up, even though he's not here to receive the butter. That's the thing about John Dillard, right? When I was trying to get my book shopped around, I ended up on Dillard's show, and Dillard gave me the runaround. Dillard likes to poke fun, but Dillard's a good guy. And then, much like how I ended up on Gospel of Comics, I didn't just go away. I stuck around. Dillard couldn't get rid of me, so I started hanging out with Dillard on his streams when he'd do a stream and he's doing art, and he'd talk about the Buckler, and we'd talk about how his life is going, and he was actually like just a guy, right? He wasn't always making the sale. He wasn't a character on YouTube. He was just a dude making comics, having fun.
Yeah,
right?
always drawing.
And it's like, you know what? I am going to support this guy because I want to support a guy who loves the art of what he's doing. And then it's like, oh, and the Buckler just happens to be good. Right? So
Now, Rune, don't go too far in this, because this is supposed to be over. We're supposed to not be backing people anymore because we like their story arc, their IRL story arc.
I mean, the only thing that's having me back this this Sentai book that Yellow Flash is doing, and I like the idea. I like John Dillard. I could take or leave Yellow Flash.
Well, I'm gonna ask a weird question that I usually do not ask. Because this is a enlightened debate. Does anyone mind if I drop a swear?
Sure, go ahead.
Only if it's just give us a really cool one.
Right. So people who say that we're not supposed to back things, like things, or support other creators who are fighting the good fight for positive change in the industry, can get fucked. From the deepest part of my heart, please go into a dark alley and become molested in Minecraft by large unknown men.
That was good. See what? So like you're describing the perennial truth of I want to say a healthy market. A healthy market, a relatively free market, is one where there's enough transparency between seller and buyer, where people can really see the quality of the people who are selling and get a sense of their character. And if they feel that they have a high enough that their trust meter is working decently, and they can actually evaluate the integrity of the people over time who are doing the selling, then they're gonna be buying what those people are selling. And I think that's a sign of health. It's not a sign of some sort of e-begging. It can be a little more sadistic, but I think over time people tend to figure out who the quote unquote grifters are, and who the people who really deserve it are. That's what free markets do, I think, is figure out who is worth backing, and worthy backing has something to do with the content of the product, but it has more to do than just the product, which I think is fascinating. That's what we've been experiencing these last few years.
Well, my excitement with the concept of the Rippaverse when it first came out, when Eric July was making his big play, was we're finally doing it. An indie company, not backed by some other body, not licensing from Fox to make Predator comics, even though I love me some Dark Horse, don't get me wrong.
Don't tempt me. That sounds really cool.
But an actual indie company making original comics, I was like, this is it. This is the holy grail that we've been looking for. Because I have said time and again,
you were the market. Yeah.
Well, despite being told that my expectations are unrealistic and that the idea of subscription models never coming back, doing one book alone is not good enough. Doing two is pretty good, but it's still not good enough. We need, in our comics industry, longer runs. We need volumes. We need successful books with successful fans who come back book after book after book. Right? Not necessarily out of brand loyalty, but out of enjoying the product. You know, in big company, they call them end users. We're not just consumers, we're end users. Right? The end user is the actual most important cog in the machine. No end user, no money. It's simple as.
Yeah.
Right.
You're kind of what you're describing, I think, is what is the peculiarity of the US comics market. When you say things like runs and arcs, you're using American language to describe what the market expects. And I think that's really cool that the mainstream market is dying, but that doesn't mean that the mainstream taste buds are gone. That sensibility of how comics can happen. The fact that people still want superhero comics.
Well, the comparison that gets made is,
is
well,
interesting.
manga is doing so well, and people are like, well, manga has hundreds of issue series, and they don't have these problems. It's got to be something America. It's like, no. If you look at it, if you look at those books and you break them up, most of which were run in magazines before they were consolidated. Those are runs. Those are arcs. Those are volumes. Those are graphic novels. It's the same system under different language.
I like the way you're thinking, but I mean, at least American runs, you can do different. Isn't there an understanding that it can be written by different people? It can be drawn by different people. That's not usually the case with manga.
We have some different. There are some differences in the guts and the makeup. But
I'll grant you, yeah. Okay, yeah. There's a very similar manifestation in Japan too, and it's wildly successful. You know.
Right. I think much of their success is not just the combination of, yes, keeping one dedicated team on a book that's successful long term helps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy who's doing One Piece has been doing One Piece forever. But also consistent expectations of quality. Right?
Yeah.
I'll grant you that the manga industry is cutthroat and they treat their talent like scum. But they also have very high expectations of quality, and if you don't meet those expectations of quality, you're out on your ear. Right?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Because they understand, again, if the end user doesn't like it, the end user's not going to keep buying it, and we can't meet our sales quotas. Right? We can buy one ISOM, right, at a $35-ish price point. Some of us might, some whales might be able to buy two, but the comics industry was built on what, 10-cent books, right?
Which
American comics
with inflation works out to like 2 something.
Right. American comics are healthier when they are less expensive fodder for the masses. Get more books in more hands, in front of more eyeballs. And to do that, you need repeat business. You need multiple books. And I've always said that how we do that is we need to make a imprint. We need to make a publisher of our own to publish our books in a free and open market model where everybody involved is, if not working together directly, like different artists from different books working on each other's books to get them done, right, is at least collaborating under the notion that if this imprint does well, we all do well. And there are people that think that that is like somehow anti-capitalist or anti-American, but it's like, no, it's an American success story. That's how companies come together, is because we realize that no one artist, no one author can be expected to do every single job that makes the soup.
So, Matt, you said you were going somewhere at 9. So, who am I the warm up act for?
Oh, I hang out with Mike Ogden, who does The Embrace. He's got Elysian Fields. He has Judex, which is still being crowdfunded, and other Roman adventure stories. We do like a classic. I think we're going to be reviewing the trailer for Alexander the Great, Netflix's biopic tonight.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to, get the wheels turning, get the juices flowing, get the brain thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite. It's once again, it's so exciting to come to show up and just kind of like I hear people used to do at the local comic shop. To argue about stories, to argue about like what it's not really arguing, is it? Just kind of express our curiosity and animated interest in the business behind these stories, where things are going, who's getting fired, who's getting hired. It's all fascinating. America's been full, like, unlike other, I think, industries for comics in other countries. Americans are peculiarly interested in the business of comics as much as they are in comics. For some reason, that's always been the case. We're always talking about who the writer is for this and who's the editor, and we're still doing it, and that's really neat.
It's like the classic sports culture stuff. Could Muhammad Ali beat Brock Lesnar in a fight?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we all are familiar that in the, let's say, mid 80s to early 90s, comic talent, especially artists, started being recognized like rock stars. And I think that's part of the contributing problem in modern comics is people coming in who don't have their cred yet think, oh, I made it. I work for Marvel now because my daddy knows somebody else. I must be a rock star now. It's the Smash Mouth era of comics.
Oh my goodness.
And they get hired for cheap and dirty by people like Mark Waid, who convinced a French comic book company to cut him a big check to try to get them Hollywood connections.
Is he still doing that? I vaguely remember that. That was
he is. Well, what's the name of that company? It's a big French comic producer. I completely blank on the name, but he did yet another school shooter comic.
Oh, did he?
In keeping with this analogy, what we really need is we need a new wave heavy metal movement in comics.
I think that's why John Malin had his superhero raping a sentient cadaver's head.
I'm sorry, that was just
it was vile.
Yeah, it was
forgot about
vile. Here's the thing. I'm not in favor of returning to 90s Edge for the sake of Edge, right? But I would in fact love it if comics went back to more, say, a 1992. We're a little heavy, but we're not quite over the top kind of balance. More like action movies.
Yeah, just little electric guitar X-Men. Like
yeah. That's the thing. I want my X-Men to jump out of the Blackbird and land, and there to be the stinger. And then I want them to fight bad guys, and I want it to be a classic hero fight, not a 3-page dissertation with word bubbles about the nature of oppression in America that sometimes looks like a guy's punching a guy, but not really.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm gonna
You are welcome. And
I'm gonna go pay some bills, and then I'll be streaming again at 9 p.m.
Yep.
No, I'm thankful you did.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. See you guys later. You guys.